Verona. There aren't many cities that hold such a beautiful and tragic story of love like the city of Verona in Italy. The city, located on the Adige River in Veneto, Italy, was home to the famous icons of love, Romeo and Juliet, at least, according to William Shakespeare's play Romeo and Juliet. As a result, a lot of people who visit the city try to immerse themselves in the tragic love story by visiting some of the sites, especially the famed balcony on Juliet's house. However, while being the town of Romeo and Juliet is a significant part of the city of Verona's fame, there is more to it than that, and we are going to be exploring all of that in this video. Prior to William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, Verona was just another regular city, nothing special about it. But seeing as Shakespeare set this tragic love story in this city, more and more people decided to go and visit the city. That being said, Shakespeare's setting of the story was not arbitrary. His own story is actually based on Luigi da Porta's recently rediscovered story of two noble lovers with their pitiful death occurred at the time of Bartolomeo della Scala. And da Porta's story is a tragic story set in Verona of two noble lovers that were kept away from each other by their parents. Now, whether or not the story of Romeo and Juliet is a real one is still being contested. But both the Montagues and the Capulets are real families that lived in Verona, so that could have been an added reason why William Shakespeare decided to set Romeo and Juliet in Verona. Casa di Giulietta is said to be Juliet's house because it apparently used to belong to the Capuletti family, so, the castle is definitely a must-visit. Even more interesting is the fact that people are so enamored with the story of love that this castle represents that they write notes declaring their love for someone and then post them on the courtyard walls. Currently, the castle receives more than 5,000 letters every year. Still on the theme of romance, consider visiting the Basilica di San Zeno Maggiore which, according to the Shakespeare story, houses the crypt where Romeo and Juliet ran away to get married. The building itself is a church which was modeled after old Roman Empire buildings, and, aside from housing that crypt, also fitted with bronze doors that were created in the 12th century and a Wheel of Fortune window. To explore the tragic side of the love story, consider visiting what could be Juliet's tomb. So, in the book, Juliet died in the 13th century Franciscan convent, which, from extrapolations, people say should be the Via del Pontiere. Whatever the case, though, the Via del Pontiere is the spot where people visit to pay respects to Juliet and generally just explore the tragic end to an all-consuming love story. Verona is the second largest city in northeast Italy and is currently home to about 700,000 people. Verona is also home to a number of historical buildings, so much so that UNESCO named it a World Heritage Site. Italy, and particularly Verona, preserved a good number of ancient Roman monuments like the arena and a couple of churches. However, an earthquake occurred on the 3rd of January, 1117 that caused the destruction of a number of these monuments, resulting in the rebuilding of some of these monuments and the complete replacement of some others. All in all, Verona is known for its architectural masterpieces. So, if you happen to find yourself in the city of tragic love, here are some of the sites you can visit in addition to Juliet's balcony. The Verona Arena, known as Arena di Verona in Italian, is one of Verona's monuments that wasn't completely destroyed by the 1117 earthquake. It is basically an amphitheater situated in Piazza Bra in Verona that was built in the 1st century but is still in use today. The Verona Arena used to be the venue for shows and gladiator games called ludi and used to draw a massive crowd from different cities and even different countries. Modern times, it is being used as a venue for mass opera performances with its sitting capacity of 15,000. You should know, though, that the Verona Arena used to be able to sit about 30,000 people but the sitting capacity had to be reduced in order for the amphitheater to be fitted with an opera stage and the works to make it a befitting opera venue. Your visit to Verona should also include a tour around Piazza Bra, which is actually where the Verona Arena is located. For those who do not know, a piazza is a kind of square or marketplace that you would typically find in Italy. So, There are a number of these in Verona, but Piazza Bra is, without a doubt, the biggest one, and, some would say, also the biggest in Italy. Piazza Bra is your typical tourist location with its cafes and restaurants that serve both local and international drinks and food so that you can both immerse yourself in the culture and also quell your homesickness. There are also shops where you can make little or heavy purchases, and then there are the interesting buildings that you can check out like the Verona Arena, which we already talked about, and Grand Guardia. You might want to make time to check out some of the other spots like the Verona Cathedral. Trust me, it really doesn't matter whether or not you are spiritual, the Verona Cathedral is certainly a place that you want to make time to check out if you are ever in Verona. The Verona Cathedral, also called Cattedrale Santa Maria Matricolare or Duomo di Verona in Italian, was erected after the 1117 earthquake. That earthquake destroyed two Paleo-Christian churches and the Verona Cathedral was then built on the same site to replace them. But history is not all that is interesting about this cathedral. For one, the building is simply magnificent, and any architecture enthusiast would enjoy the sights. But even more, the cathedral houses a library, the Biblioteca Capitolare della Cattedrale di Verona or the chapter library of Verona Cathedral, that is said to be the world's oldest library which has continued to be in use. This library has been able to preserve a number of works of classical tradition, including the Fasti Consulares of Verona and the Codex Veronensis. You should also visit Castel San Pietro, which is a military building right on the San Pietro Hill, and while tourists are allowed, visiting is restricted. However, if you are able to gain access, you will be enamored by the sprawling masterpiece. It was erected between 1852 and 1858 to replace the existing castle that was built in the 14th century. Finally, as your trip to Verona comes to an end, one place you want to consider visiting is Lake Garda. This lake is between Verona and Brescia, and also between Venice and Milan, so, what better way to wrap up your trip to Verona than to go to this inner-city lake? I'm sure that you have figured out that touring Verona might require more than one trip. There are just so many interesting and monumental sights to see that you might feel FOMO if you don't see them all. But make sure to pace yourself and enjoy whatever piece of Verona you are able to see, because I can bet that whatever you do see will be remarkable. You shouldn't expect less from the town of Romeo and Juliet. So, what do you think about the city of Verona? Will you be visiting at some point? Please tell us in comment section. Also, don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.